start the broadcast. It started now. So everybody, this is Myson Jones with Hoops Institute, and I have with me a skills consultant, director of skill development for Jordan NBA, Adidas, Nike, WNBA. I probably can't go down the list because it's too long, but we've had technical difficulties, and you know what? We're just gonna jump right into this, man. JLaw, is that cool with you?
That's fine with me, my man.
Good deal. You're at Starbucks right now, kicking it. So we won't keep you out there too long. But first question I wanted to ask: after you finished your college season, when did you really start training, or when did you start to see that this can be something that you can do full time for a career?
Well, in college, I had a couple of clients, just like a lot of NC2A, players do have, just for a little side money. And I thought anything of it. Being on the same token, playing was my passion. When I got done playing my last season in Mexico, I came back, and my family, I come from a very conservative family, so my family was pressuring me. They were putting so much pressure on me to find a job with security, with benefits, with, that had job security. So I wasn't really thinking about basketball training as being like the end all profession. And then it came just literally like Lord's blessing. Came out of nowhere. 2 clients turned to 4, which turned to 16, which turned to, 80, which turned to, 150. So it just kind of blossomed into something. So it wasn't like an over the night thing. It was just something that was fueled by my passion, and it just kept on building and growing, growing kind of organically rather than something that was, premeditated. So it honestly, God, was a true blessing, but it was a testament as well to my passion and to my drive to really focus on getting each individual better that was on the court with me.
Right. So what were you doing? Did you have like a job that you were doing and you were training on the side, or?
Yeah, I started up a company when I was in high school with my 2 younger brothers. So we had a property management company, which we turned into an investment company. So business is something that's always been, bred within my family. But in the same token, it wasn't my path. I wasn't driven to be, behind a desk. So, my work day went from 9 to 5 to 9 to 3 to 9 to noon to I'm not coming in today throughout the course of my training sessions.
That's funny. I know how that is. So what were you doing at this time? What were you doing for gym time? Where were you going? Like the rec or?
Oh man, basketball training, any true basketball trainer knows that it's a hustle, that it's a grind, especially out here in California. We're blessed and fortunate to have the sun about 360 days out of the year, out of the 365. So we can find outdoor courts and gym time, but the indoor gym time is very, very tough. It's very sporadic. There's programs all over the place. So you got to move and shake, because a lot of times, these programs like a rec center or a boys and girls club won't allow trainers to go in there for monetary gain. They'll allow you to go in there and play, but as soon as you're making that outside money, they're going to be charging gym fees. So for me, growing up, I was always trying to fly under the radar and, just get as many free opportunities, the lowest overhead I could possibly, attain, which was phenomenal for my business, because I kept on going into, different niches and different gyms, and I was driving 100 and something miles a day. It was something ridiculous. We can go into a different story on that, but I was getting my, that localized attention, and it was starting to spread feelers around the area to where I had the external kind of like outlying cities kind of engulfed with. They knew who I was. I drove a 2005 Prius that had my company logo, kid you not, company logo, name, banner, all written on it. Top of it was a basketball. It had the pattern of a basketball. It was bright orange, like the ugliest thing you will ever imagine, not to mention that it's a Prius. And it was my driving billboard. So every time I'd park it at a gym, I was getting notifications. People knew who I was. Now, yeah, it didn't help me with being inconspicuous, because as soon as the people at the rec center saw that, my car had parked there, they knew I was trained, and they knew I was up to something. But for me, for my business, long term, it helped out unbelievably. So I would bounce around from gym to gym. I'd get opportunities through working out, like Boys and Girls Club. I worked out a couple of their programs, so they allowed me to get some gym time. So just a lot of hustling, a lot of moving and shaking.
Man, don't knock the Prius. I have a Prius right now, 2016.
Hey, I'm not knocking the Prius, man. They're one of my favorite cars. I still have a Prius. As soon as my other one had 297,000 miles on it.
Oh,
297. God. So I have one right now, man. Don't worry. I'm not knocking it.
Just making sure, man. 50 miles to the gallon, you can't beat that, especially if you're driving 100 miles a day.
Man.
What's that about?
Oh man, it was miserable, but it was necessary. I really, in a marketplace that's like San Diego or Southern California, it's such a dense market where you have little pockets and niches of I hate to say this, but affluent clients. So the La Joillas, the Del Mars, the Carmel Valleys, all these different little areas. It made no sense to kind of, only allocate myself to one position. So I thought, okay, if I can touch the Del Mars, the Carlsbads, the San Diego, the La Joillas throughout the course of my week, come the weekend sessions when I have a central located, group session, I can pool in all these different clients from these neighboring areas and make it, kind of like an all-encompassing greater San Diego area. So for me, like I understood the long-term gain, the long-term side of it. And that's why I devoted so much time and hassle and pain to driving around on a daily basis.
So what was the tough part? Obviously the mileage on the car, but what would you say the darker times were for you? Obviously you were ducking and dodging gyms, you were trying to get in certain pockets, but was it driving the worst part? Or take me to some of the days where you're like, man, this kind of sucks.
100%. 100% it was driving. I tried to make excuses for it, like, oh, it's therapeutic. Oh, I can get all my calls done. Oh, it's this. In the end, looking back at it, I spent about, for the greater part of, 3 hours a day in the car, sometimes more when I drive to LA or drive, drive to a little bit deeper. And you think about all the time lost. And I was computing like my hourly rate, versus my time spent in the car. I was like, man, I'm hosting 8 sessions a day, but I'm driving, 3 hours. I'm turning my 8-hour workday into an 11-hour workday. Like that's just taxing on my body. And I started like trying to think like, okay, how can I maximize this? To make, for it to make sense, to be as efficient as possible. Now, there came a point where I was like, this is necessary. This is pertinent to my growth and my sustainability in the area, and I need to do it now. I need to put in that grunt work. I wanted it, but got to a point where I was like, you know what, it's time to get off that and to make sure. I've already made a name for myself in the San Diego or Southern California area. And it was one of those things where I just wanted more out of my daily efforts. So that's when I got my first and second facilities. So I have a facility now in San Diego, and I also have a facility in Orange County in Irvine. My wife and I live up in Irvine now. We relocated. So ever since then, it's kind of like I laid all the groundwork, and now I can just cruise down my own path.
Right. So I've spoken with a couple of guys who have academies. They have multiple locations, but the commonality I've seen is a lot of them have real estate backgrounds, or they have somebody who's been in real estate or property management or something like that. Right. So what would that process be for a trainer that is really looking to get their own place? I know a lot of people aren't in that position. They're moving ahead of themselves, but what would the first step be for a trainer who's looking into that?
Make sure you have the proper relationships. So it's a very tough thing to navigate, especially now where business managers, business gurus and real estate moguls are understanding the value that, basketball programs, basketball gyms have. So a lot of my, relationships, a lot of my facilities are based off of, personal relationship status. VCs, CEO of ASICs, up here. And I understand, I came from a real estate background and property. I understand the value of real estate, fiscally versus just trying to say, oh yeah, I got a facility, but I'm paying $8,000 a month in overhead. And it's just one of those things that I weighed out my options, but I made sure that the relationships that I had were steadfast, that were sound. So a lot of the things that I function a little bit differently than a lot of trainers. So I'm not appeal to the masses type trainer. And a lot of guys, especially in this business, in order to have your own facility, run your own facility, you need to be a trainer that appeals to the masses to bring in as much to cover your overhead, correct? And when I go through my business, I base a lot of things on boutique. So I'm very boutique style. I charge a premium for my product. I have very small numbers because I believe in the attention to detail and the pretty much uniqueness, the quality of my content. And with that comes a different source of income, different flow of income. So with that, I structured my contracts differently for my facilities, and it's based more so on percentage based, especially for me. I'm out of town a lot of the year. So I'm in different countries. I'm doing all this stuff. So when I leave, I don't have literally zero qualms with leaving, having some of my trainers kind of cover my nut in the facility. And I don't have to worry about, covering my nut for the overhead for the gym costs. So it's phenomenal. I have very, very low overhead. My margins are extremely high because of the way I've structured my facilities on a percentage base. And I still have, my residual income from my programs. I still have my trainers on staff in San Diego and Irvine that, keep me up to speed when I'm gone. But as I said, I function as a boutique style trainer. And one of the hardest things in the service industry is to replicate the service that you produce. So a lot of my clients I hate to say this, but a lot of my clients, when they get in the gym with me, they don't want to train with one of my other trainers. They don't want to train with somebody else. They want me. Or if somebody gets in the gym with my trainer and they've, become keen to that trainer, they want to train with them and nobody else. So in the service industry, people fall in love with the personality. They fall in love with, with the person. And it's really hard to replicate that. And a lot of guys are out there who have a ton of trainers who function, who understand the scalability aspect of it. Like the big time guys, I know all of them, and they've kind of gotten to a point now where they can certify trainers, they do all this stuff, and I'm in the process of getting things down a little bit differently. Where, and you'll see here, I know you, Myson, are part of the JLaw B-Ball Trainers Guide to Success. We talk about that in the 4th, 5th, and 6th months of the programs, kind of the way that I go into structuring my business. From a long-term aspect, from a scalable, aspect. But for the most part, I know there's a long, rounded off, answer to your question. But for as far as gyms are concerned, you have to make sure that you're getting in bed with the right people. Because there's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of business developers and gym facility managers that are just trying to, take. And it's really hard to make a living when you have such a high overhead.
Man, that's a good answer. And I have an idea where I want to go after that. You said something in particular. What I've found is, I'm just starting this out. I left my job 3 weeks ago because, my background's in marketing from school, and I believe so much in the marketing and intertwining basketball and marketing together, right? I mean, it's what you do. Mm-hmm. It's what your life is built off of with the masses. I've seen charities are the ones that are most willing to give time for the rental space. Have you ever had any experiences with churches?
100%.
Okay.
100%. The Mormon churches have been extremely grateful. We got not too many other churches, outside churches, have facilities, unfortunately, here. Probably because the cost of real estate is so high, so steep. So they don't really have much space to allocate to a facility. But I've experienced extreme gratefulness from organizations like that.
So my question next is, you mentioned scaling services, and you're kind of moving in a different direction. I saw that, and I'm not sure if you're still with them or not, but you were with I'm Possible, right? You created a profile. How did that help or hurt you? And yeah, let's answer that first. How has that helped you or hurt you? What's the idea behind that move?
So this is something that I also talk about in our Trainers Guide to Success is to make sure that you spread your reach. So it's so important, especially starting out. Michael Lancaster is an unbelievable businessman. He's an unbelievable trainer. And there's a lot of things that he teaches that are just top notch. I believe that his detail rate, as well as a couple other trainers in this business, are very similar to what I expect myself and, my teaching. So him and I got along, extremely well, extremely quickly. And when he first approached me to do some game enhancement stuff, some game improvement things, he asked me to write a complete program. So I wrote believe it was 70 something pages on game improvement, the game enhancement aspect of basketball. So there's two types of trainers, skill and game. And I believe I'm a fusion of both, where you teach the skill enhancement concepts that fuse or implement into the game situational aspect of basketball, which is the most imperative part of training. Make sure that you're not creating robots, but you're creating monsters, right? So we went, as soon as he came to me, I saw it as an extreme benefit to my company, to my brand, because of his reach, because of his niche, for me to be seen a little bit more. And it did. It helped me out immensely. I was able to attain a bunch of new clientele, or just have the awareness, the brand awareness that, I was who I am in Southern California. And I was able to keep, the Jordan Lawley basketball brand, which was extremely important to me, making sure that I have that brand recognition, and that I'm not, even though I was under the umbrella of I'm Possible, I still was my separate entity. I still was my own entity. So I feel like it was a phenomenal play on my part. It was a great opportunity that Micah allowed me to do, and I would do it again in a heartbeat if I had the choice.
Okay, man, that was a perfect answer. So next question: do you outsource? You have 151,000 followers, and it's growing on Instagram. Do you outsource anything, or is it just you, your phone, and that's it?
No, I have a business manager, a U.S. business manager, a China business manager. I have a web designer. I got program flyer a content creator. I got videographer. There's definitely, we talked about it just right before we hopped on this call, outsourcing. And one of the biggest things that I know you will agree with, if you're not great at something, outsource it, because it's only going to diminish your product, and you're only going to be able to focus. One thing that I truly believe in is focus what you are great in 100%, put all your effort into that, and anything else where you sacrifice your greatness, where you sacrifice the amount of intent and energy you're able to put forth to that thing, outsource it, get rid of it, have somebody else who's great at it do it. Because for me, like when I get on the court, when I get in front of a camera, when I get in front of people running a camp, that's what I'm great at. I believe in it, and I'm confident with it. I'm not conceited, I'm not cocky. There's a bunch of people that are great as well, but I believe that's what I am great at. That's what the Lord put me on this earth to do, to preach to kids in the basketball setting, or NBA, or anybody, preach to players. But the other things, like we briefly spoke about, I am awful when it comes to technology. Like I am so bad when it comes to the back end side of it, that I have other people doing that. I have other people that control that aspect of my business. And it's, for me, it gives me the time with my wife, which is first and foremost, time with family is the most important thing to me. And then it gives me time to just focus on what I do best.
So man, so many ways I want to go down this. What would you tell that trainer you were there briefly a few years back, maybe a decade back, but what would you tell that trainer who's bootstrapping right now, who doesn't have a budget, but has to find a videographer, or wants to find a videographer, and kind of trade something of an equal value? How would you suggest that trainer go about it if they don't have cash to pay somebody?
Barter. So videographers are just as in flux as basketball trainers, meaning you turn the corner, you got another basketball trainer, you have another videographer. So videographers understand this whole ball is life movement. They understand the hoop mixtape stuff, and they're trying to get into the business because they understand the value of their abilities, of their service. So you'll be able, trainers, no matter where you are, whether it's North Dakota, North Carolina, or California, you guys can handle this. You guys can, barter your service and find somebody who's willing to do it for either a very, very cheap price. Can you still see me?
No, I can't, but I can hear you though.
Okay. Whether it's a cheaper price, or just the fact that you can barter your service for it, give them, content, or allow their content to be streamed on your site, on your webpage, because people are looking for, press kit. Videographers are looking for products where they can utilize as a press kit for future, larger clientele, larger businesses. So I've done that. And that's one thing that's so important to understand, is you have to make sure that you don't try to scale too quickly. Like, focus on, building your brand, building your motives, what your mission statement is, how you can, best produce the best possible business model for yourself first before you work on, spending money on videographer or, spending money on a business manager. A lot of trainers early on, they don't need all that stuff. I didn't need all that stuff. It wasn't until about a year ago where I started realizing, like, okay, now I can kind of outsource because A, my plate is getting too full. I have too many coals in the fire. And B, there's no need for me to, to waste my time when I have, discretionary spending that I can, use for these extra services, these external services, and still have a high ROI. So from an early onset, like trainer standpoint, if you don't have the necessary funds, if you are, beginning this, don't worry, don't feel stressed like you need to cop a business manager right away or have a PR agent. Like, you don't need it. It's all going to come in due time, and you'll know when your plate starts getting too full, and your bank account will tell you that. Will tell you accordingly.
Man, it's a great answer. Great answer. So a little brief aside right here. You just got back from the All-Star weekend. You got to hang out with Drew Hanlon. You got to hang out with B-Dot. I played against B-Dot in college at Lincoln Memorial. Dude's hilarious.
Hey, man. He's so funny, man.
Yeah. So who is the coolest cat that you got to meet there?
Oh my gosh. Coolest dude I got to meet. Probably, kid you not, no basketball relation whatsoever. Andy Grammer, the singer. Andy Grammer was probably one of the coolest guys I met the whole weekend. And it was probably because, like, I trained him for the celebrity game. And usually when you train celebrities, you never know what you're going to get. Some of them, obviously have a stigma. And when I met Andy, he was just so hungry to learn, to get better. And it was just really cool to kind of see that and kind of, share the same passion over a sport that I had no idea that he had a love for. And him and I got along really well. He's like, "Oh man, Jordan, I live in LA. I'm going to, call you. We do a singer-songwriter, pickup game every Saturday, and we're going to hustle these cats. We're going to say that I've been writing mad music with you, got a dope falsetto, and then you play a mad keyboard, and we're just going to hustle them." So it's just like really cool banter. We enjoyed each other's time, and he was a really dope person to hang out with, to meet. And I saw him the entire weekend. So over the course of 3 days, we were hanging out continuously. But probably the coolest basketball person that I was able to meet was probably Steve Smith. So him and I got to talking, Steve Smith, and he's going to have me out there for Under the Rim segment on TNT out in Atlanta. So there's a bunch of things coming in the woodworks. But such a great guy, such a personable guy, and I love being within the All-Star environment and culture, because NBA guys, ex-NBA guys, kind of let their guard down, so they become a little bit more approachable, because they know that the people that are there with them are of the same scope. They're of the same background.
Wow, man. And I'm jumping around everywhere here because a lot of these things are coming up, and usually I go in a sequence, but there's so many things to talk about. Before you got to the level you're at now, did you have any kind of limiting beliefs? Like, some trainers are like, I don't want to be on Instagram. I don't want to have my phone in my hand while my guys are working out. Or what were your limiting beliefs that you had before you scaled?
So there's a ton of things that I still don't, believe in. And it's a lot of content, a lot of things that just go back to the content that I'm creating. I have to make sure that it's not a show, that it's not a circus show. I have to make sure that, I'm not doing it for a video to try to produce like amazing content. I'm there for my client. So at any point, if I jeopardize my business, and this goes back to establishing a true business statement and making sure that you have that, what you believe and what you follow, and make sure that you're true to it. And I'm true to mine. I know what my goal is. I know what my beliefs are. And at any point, if I feel like I'm jeopardizing it, I can pull the plug on the things that I'm doing in an instant. And I won't even let it get to the point where I'd have to say, hey, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. I can't be doing this, because I've been doing this for, consistently for so long. So, and I'm still new to this, as far as doing it for a profession, but I'm just very consistent with what I believe should be done or should be taught on the court.
So that makes sense, because a lot of trainers, they don't want to, well, some do want to do like you said circus, and the cool tricks, the cool dribbling drills, because it is nice for marketing purposes. It gets followers, right? Yeah. But what is the balance there between having a great marketing, but also making sure that your product is actually going to help other kids versus just having cool marketing?
Yeah, so I stretch my reach. I have multiple platforms. So my training sessions, if you noticed, I don't rely on my training sessions as my marketable tool. I rely on what I can do as far as my abilities to be able to break down skills content, to be able to promote, or to do an amazing YouTube skill breakdown. And I don't rely on the way that I train to be sexy. I'm not a sexy trainer, like just plain and simple. I label sexy trainers as the ones that are in it for the monetary value. They're in it for the, for the fame, for the status, who, when they do something within a group, within a clinic setting, within a private setting, group set, it doesn't matter. They do it because of the appeal factor. They do it because it looks good to somebody walking into the gym for the first time, or it looks good online. And that's not who I am. So I rely on other avenues on my other content that I create in order to promote my brand from that regard.
Man, so I know in your Trainer's Guide to Success, you teach about imaging yourself, or just finding your identity,
Yeah.
right? And you seem like you stretch all lines. You go from the group to the individual to the everything except the coaching. Am I right? Or how do you identify yourself?
So when we talk in the Trainer's Guide to Success, we talk about kind of staying in your own lane. And there's a coach from a coaching setting, like where you're coaching a group or coaching a team. You have strength conditioning, you have skill enhancement, or you have game enhancement, and you want to make sure that you're staying within your lane. And even though it may seem like I kind of jump courses, there's a lot when you're in traffic, like early on. So if you're a beginner trainer and you're stuck in traffic, sometimes it makes sense to weave in and out of traffic, or to evade a stalled car in order to find yourself in the correct lane in order to speed down the highway, right? So when you go through this business, when you're learning your identity, trust me, I went from the skill development to the coach. I was an AAU coach for a year, for a few seasons, and I was doing strength condition. I was doing plyometric work, plyometric training. I was doing game enhancement training. I was doing skill. So I was jumping around lanes, and then I started seeing those open patch of lanes where I was like, hey man, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm great at. This is what I'm going to stick with. Because if you jump from all these different hats and you start bouncing around back and forth, it starts taking away from your overall value and overall time that you can allot to getting better in that one craft. If I'm a strength conditioning trainer who's trying to jump back to the skill enhancement side or the skill development side, it's going to make it very hard for me to grow as a skill development trainer when I have to focus my betterment on being both. I can only allocate so much time throughout the course of a day to perfecting my craft, or to get myself better in those aspects. So to start off, yeah, man, jump lanes, figure it out. But as you start establishing more of a name for yourself, bigger business for yourself, you have to be solidified and be select with the lane that you stay in.
So what would you say is for your personal experience, the best way that you've marketed and that's gotten you the most clients?
So the best way from an online setting, from an online social media setting, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah, the best thing is expanding my reach from different niches. So having different pages shout me out, or having I was involved with the Nike Summer Series in 2014 with Kyrie Irving to help kind of get jumpstart, be like act as a catalyst for my brand, for my business. So never trying to withhold this. Do collaborations. I encourage every single trainer out there to collab with different trainers. I run multiple camps every year with the top trainers in the world. Not because I'm trying to, not because I think of them as competitors, but because I think of them as brand builders. Where if I get in the gym with them, I'm not just reaching my clientele now, I'm reaching their clientele as well. And we're producing an amazing product because we have two minds working on the betterment of our clients rather than just one. So there's a lot of things that a lot of trainers will try to withhold, to try to stay, kind of as a recluse and be like, man, I'm just going to stick with what I'm doing because what I'm doing is better than what they're doing. And, you can't have that mindset. The pie is big enough for everyone. And it's even bigger if you start taking nibbles off of other people's pie. And I'm not saying that as a means of being negative or a means of being like negligent. I'm saying this is every trainer or coach should do this in order to get more of that global brand awareness.
That's a good point. And again, like we said already, like a lot of this stuff is scarcity mindset in this market. I mean, what makes you want to give away what Trainer's Guide to Success? What makes you want to give away so much knowledge and give access to yourself at, I'm not going to disclose the price right now, but at that price, like such a low price?
Because I'm in it for the right reason. And I think every trainer needs to understand that we're all in it for the commonality, for the common goal to get our clients better. And throughout that process, we also have to understand that this is a profession, this is a career for us where we have to provide for families. And what I want nothing more is to make sure that trainers across the globe, coaches, trainers, no matter what sports you're even coaching or training in, like the Trainer's Guide to Success isn't just for, solidifying, building a successful business, in basketball. It's for any sport, any trainer. But if you can do this the correct way, if you can teach the game the right way and understand how to build your business the correct way, that's what we're in it for. We're in it to get every player that steps in the gym with us better. And I want to make sure that knowledge is known to everybody who can get their hands on our program.
That's great. That's great. And I'm not sure what is your time availability right now. I want to be respectful of that.
Yeah, I got to take off here in about 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Oh man. Okay. So last thing, if that's the case, why should trainers, if you have one more reason, why should trainers look into the Trainer's Guides for Success and follow you up on that?
Oh man, this answer could take longer than 2 minutes. So one thing, I'll just stick with one thing. ROI. So return on investment. There's so much filler and fluff content that's out there. There's so many things that, books and programs that trainers can buy to for their betterment, to get them better, to certifications and all these things. And I'm here for ROI, return on your investment. And with my program, we've established nothing but ROI from every single person that's involved with it. So I have trainers from Puerto Rico, from Canada, from United States, all over the United States. And every single person that starts my program, and granted it's still new in inception, it still has 3 months, you have to have some return on what you're putting forth, the things that you're purchasing, the things that you're spending your time, energy and money toward. And I feel like with my Trainer's Guide to Success, there will be ROI in your future. You just have to make sure you stay your course and continue to build the way that we've kind of outlined throughout it. So return on investment is probably one of the biggest things that will separate my program from others.
Folks, you have heard it from the man himself, JLaw B-Ball. I will include a link to his Trainer's Guide to Success in the show notes. Jordan, man, I appreciate your time, and thanks for serving these trainers, and thanks for jumping up on this interview, man.
Man, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mason.
No problem. Take care.
All right, man. Talk soon.
Bye.